And so joining us today, we do have our GAMUT team. Going to be Erin Ray, she's the manager for the sales and training. Myself, again, Shania Sadana, I am the program coordinator with the GAMUT team. And then we have two of our incredible governance technology specialists, Ray Purcell and Lauren Austin, that are joining us as well. But thank you very much, and we appreciate you carving out some time to sit here and chat about some really fun modules. First things that we do want to go ahead and get started is just kind of letting you guys know that if you do have any questions, you do request that you either raise your hand or you can wait at the end. Also, do feel free to drop them in the chat. That way we can go ahead and address them in an orderly manner, but that way it all kind of goes through, just gives like a nice little order to follow in. Again, if you have any questions, dropping them in the chat or stating them for the end there, and then we'll get to those as soon as we're able to. At the end of this, all the registered attendees are also going to be receiving a link to the recording of the webinar. So of course, always best if you show up in person. You can always ask any questions there. But the recording will also be sent out for you to review in the future as well. As I kind of alluded to in the beginning, we are going to be covering the documents and communications module within the GAMUT platform. So they are two newer modules. It's going to be some things that you can use in addition to both policies and meetings. But essentially, if you haven't seen it already, clicking over to our platform here, we can see just kind of on our demo site, this is what that GAMUT platform is going to look like. And depending on the modules that you have here is what you would have access to. So we can see communications and documents on the top right-hand corner here. And to get things started, we'll start with communications. So some really fun stuff in there, lots of really great ways to be able to keep yourself, your staff members, and members of the public informed with just kind of everything going on within the district. So essentially what it would be is you can link different news articles on there, and we're going to be able to kind of explore that and see what that would look like to add those in person or in real time. We're also going to be able to go in and see what the calendar features look like, because you can both link either a PDF or create a custom calendar within your GAMUT platform. So again, very easy to stay connected, whether it's for like a lunch calendar, and meeting, etc. Makes it really handy to have everything in one location. There also is the email notification. So as we can see in kind of a little photo here, there's going to be the notifications administration. Again, to see this in action in just a moment, but that's going to essentially be where members of your community, whether they're part or not part of your school district or COE or your charter organization, they'll be able to go in and subscribe to receive notifications for when your policies are being updated, receiving notifications for published board agendas or published minutes. Makes it very handy again to just keep everybody in the loop, and also reduces a lot of the workload off of the administrative assistants or really anybody that would otherwise have to manually send out those emails. We do also have a newer feature. It's our AI news assistant. So we're actually going to also see what this looks like in action in just a moment. But it's super handy. It's designed, of course, to take as much workload off of the individual as possible. But again, makes it really fast, and it's very, very fun to use. So we're going to go ahead and take a peek at that one in a moment. The other module that we're going to be covering is going to be documents. And for documents, this is essentially going to be similar to what you would expect like your file explorer on your computer to be like. So you can organize and manage a different variety of documents. You can upload virtually any file type. So if you have PDFs, Word documents, Excel sheets that you need to add onto there, if you have even like extra links, so say your organization utilizes Google Documents, for example, and you only have a link, otherwise you have to download as like a PDF, you'd be able to link that directly into your module. And again, makes it a very nice one-stop shop for members to be able to go in and access that information. You can also set file and folder permissions. So if you want some materials to be public, but others may be strictly internal, more than welcome to customize that. And we're going to see that in a moment as well. Creating those custom alerts so you know exactly what's going on and when. And also there isn't any file size limit or any restrictions for the number of documents you can have in the system. We won't be able to see an example of this, but the only restriction there is you can't upload more than 400 file types in a day. But 400 is already a pretty large number, should be good to go. So going back over to communications, we're going to hop into the module now. Just want to confirm if you guys are able to see my home page here. Perfect. Alrighty, so just making sure that we're logged in there. Oh. And then within the communications module, the first one that we're going to be touching base on is going to be the news one. So if we go over on the right-hand corner here, we can see we have communications. And on this drop down here, you have three different options to choose from to be able to link your information, and then also the notifications administration that we mentioned earlier. So for news, you have your news administration. This is how you can go in and edit different news types. So the way that you're able to do that, and we're going to see an example of this, but you're able to link both external news sources as well as creating something within the site. So these are just a couple examples, but you're more than welcome to add anything that's specific to your organization. This dropdown here is fully customizable. So if you have like it's the student recognition awards, if you have maybe like staff updates for, teacher of the year or for whatever it is, being able to link that right on your homepage makes it really easily accessible for everyone else. So we're going to click over into the news administration. And within the news administration, you can see this is the variety of the news types that we had on that drop-down menu here. So you can see how those correspond. Over on the top left-hand corner here, we have add news type. And this is how you're going to add these other ones. If you already have some existing ones, there is a default setting in the system, and that's going to be board reports, being that GAMUT is primarily for board meetings, for board agendas, board policies, etc. But you can add a variety of them in here, so fully customizable. If we're to create a brand new one, we're going to select that green button there, and that's going to give us the option to create either something within the assembly type or an other RSS link. If we select other RSS link, this is where you can go in, add the title of whatever external source you're trying to link on there, and then add the URL. So for example, if we wanted to do the California Department of Education, we would be able to grab that link on there if we pretended this is like a news article or some other resource that we wanted to link to our homepage there. You would copy and paste the URL at the top here, go back over to the news site. Down here, we're going to say it's CDE for the California Department of Ed, and then you just paste the URL into that little the box there. From here, you can order also where you would like this to be within your sequence. So just to keep this in numerical order, I'm going to place this as number 9. And then over here on the top right-hand corner, we can see there's also the status. Some of these are going to be public, some of these are non-public, meaning they're private. You have to have certain permissions, and of course a user login for the site to be able to access that information. So if I were to mark this as public, that means that anybody going onto the platform is able to see that information. If I uncheck the box there, that just means that certain users, again, with those permissions that the main administrator would designate, they would be able to use that and be able to access that information there. So for the case of the example here, we're going to keep this as not public. It's going to be 9 from the site, again, other RSS link, and we've linked our information there. Once we click save, we can go in, and this is now going to be hyperlinked to that web page. So if I click on this, we can see this is going to take me back to that cde.gov or cde.ca.gov website. So there's that information there. And then if we exit out of that, over on the right-hand side, we can also see the permissions icon. Being that this is non-public, if I were to select the permissions here, this just means that it's going to pull up any of the users on the site, and you can go ahead and designate who has access to this information. You would also be able to go in, and in terms of just kind of the communications in general, you can go over to the More dropdown, select User Administration, and do things also for each individual account if you wanted to. This just gives you kind of a shortcut so you have everybody there and it's nice and consolidated. Click Cancel there. And then if we did want to make any edits, we can see over on the left-hand side here, we do have this edit column with a little pencil icon. So clicking that gives me the ability to, again, either change the type that we have on here, the title of it, and then changing out the URL if that changes or if you need to update it. We can also go ahead and delete this if we wanted to. So if I said, hey, maybe this isn't relevant anymore, we want to remove this information here, select the little trash can icon. It'll confirm, are you sure you want to delete the news? I'm going to click OK, and that'll delete our link there. That is just to go through and see how we would link external information. So if we wanted to create something new in there, whether it's maybe like a student newsletter, for example, or a staff newsletter, what we'd be able to do is create the different types in here. And since we already have staff newsletter, we're going to use this one as the example. To add some content in this one, what we would do is we'd go back over to communications, select news, and then under here is where we can go in and see the different notices that we have. So here's the staff newsletter that we referenced. If we wanted to go into press releases, we would just click on that one and we can see there's going to be a variety of press releases that you're able to link on this site. So again, very easy to access. If we were to create a new one, and this is going to be something that we're creating within the platform instead of like including and linking it to that external source, We would select Add New News. And from here, this is going to open up our editor. So from this section here, we can see if we wanted to change this, say we accidentally selected the wrong one and we actually want to make this a monthly newsletter, or if we wanted to switch this to a public notice or to a board report, you have the ease of access to do that straight from the very top here. We also have the title. So I'm just going to put in, we're in the month of September, so I'm going to say September newsletter. And we're going to also show how to delete this after. So I'll put number 2. We can also have the date posted, so for the date and time here. And then if we wanted to, we'd also have this be able to display on the home page here. So we're going to see what that looks like in a minute, but I'm just going to have the date posted here. We're going to keep this public actually, so we can go ahead and just click on that from the home page. And then here's where you're able to input all of that information. This is going to be the same editor that you're already pretty comfortable and used to. It's going to be the same one within like the meetings platform, within policies. Of course, being able to change the font, highlight the text, bold, underline, etc. Very similar to what you would see in like a Microsoft Word document, Google Doc, etc. What's really nifty about this though is you do have 3 other options here. And this is going to be the really kind of the fun key features here. So not exactly, of course, is the same, but some really nice features that we're going to do is going to be the track changes, which we're going to go over in a minute. We also have our little AI assistant. And this is where, again, it can ease that workload for you. So if I were to select this one and I wanted to create a September, actually, let's write a 200-word paragraph about back to school and buying school supplies. What we would do is you would just click the little submit button, and this is going to now use AI to generate that 20-word paragraph. Oh, 20 words. We can always go back and edit that. So if we wanted to try it again, we could. We can also say maybe make this longer at 200 words. So it's going to be a little more content heavy. This will go through and be able to change that. And so it'll make the variety, like the changes that you want it to. And then from here, if you like it, if everything looks good to go, fantastic. You can incorporate that in your text box. And then of course, make any changes that you need. So as of now, everything looks pretty solid. We're just going to go ahead and insert this. But if I wanted to bold anything, I can highlight that, bold it, underline. If I wanted to add any photos, I'd be able to do that utilizing this picture icon. So you can either upload it from a computer or from a URL. If I wanted to add a table for whatever reason, I could. What's really handy about this is we reference also those track changes. So if I turn this on and I say, hey, I'm going to make these edits, but I don't know if it's going to be really something that I want to, I don't lose my progress. What I could do is, if I want to change this, I could delete it. It's not going to actually delete the text. I'll still be able to see the words that are there. It's just going to essentially track the changes as I'm going through and making my edits. This makes it really handy because as I'm adding things, it's also going to go ahead and show that in green so we can see all of the things that we've added to it. And from there, we can decide, do we like this better? Do we not? And then with the little drop down here, you can either accept all the suggestions or you can discard them, and that'll take you back to the original text that was in there. From here, if this was something that maybe you created from scratch or even with the AI generated content, if you're like, hey, I want to make this a little bit better, you do also have these AI commands here. And with this dropdown, you have the ability with some edit or review options where you can either improve the writing, you can make it shorter, you can make it longer. If I wanted to make this shorter, just select the option. It's going to go ahead and try to consolidate that information for me. From there, you can either choose to replace it, you can insert it below that, kind of compare and contrast as you're going through and making your edits. But again, fully customizable, and these tools are here and designed to make your life a whole lot easier. So saves you a lot of time and effort and energy there. You have the ability to summarize, to continue through. You can also change the tone depending on who the articles are directed to. And you can change the style of it, and then also, of course, translate this in other languages. Again, similar to the translate feature on our homepage that we see at the top right-hand corner here. Do just make sure that you do have a person that actually speaks the language go in and make sure that everything is translated accurately, just so that you're not like spreading any misinformation or that there's no mistakes or anything in there. So lots of really great features in there. If we scroll to the bottom here, we also have the ability to add some attachments and some supporting links. So again, if we open that cde.gov page and we wanted to include an article from here, we'd be able to click on that and then again, select a hyperlink. Say it's going to be for content standards, for example. We would copy and paste that hyperlink. And then as always, anytime we are copying and pasting anything into any part of the Gamut platform, we're going to utilize Control-Shift-V to strip away any of the background formatting. Going to add that link there. And then if we wanted to drag and drop any PDFs, we'd be able to do that as well. And that way, when we go to save and close this, we'll be able to have access to those links, to any attachments, and then of course the content that we have here. So I'm going to click Save and Close on the bottom right-hand corner here. And then we'll be able to see that released here, or we'll be able to see that reflected here. We did go through and we changed the news type, and that was going to be under the monthly newsletter. So if we select monthly newsletter there, we can see that September one right there. And if we click on it, this is what it would look like from that perspective. So again, they can see the hyperlinked content there, being able to pull up those websites that you wanted to add onto your articles. But then also they'll have all the content here. Any photos you've added are going to show up. Again, makes it very easy to share that information with others. Again, if you wanted to delete it, select the trash can icon, confirm that you want to delete it, and that's going to remove it from the home page there. You're able to do essentially the same thing with also the calendar and the resources. The only difference with the resources is this is strictly for including any external data. You're not able to create content within the site. So we have a couple districts that like to, well, for high school specifically, they like to add scholarships or different grants that they want their students to have access to, some good websites for them to be able to utilize as a resource there. There's also some good information that you can link for maybe some legislative action that's being taken place. If you have any resources for like LCAP or of course, we have our CSBA legal services if you have any questions about policies or the content or anything in them. But lots of really great tools there that you're able to link externally. And it's going to be that similar process where you add the new link, you would add the title here, the sequence, and then the URL over on the right-hand corner. For calendar, the other major difference with this one is going to be being able to link PDFs, but then also create something within the site. So similar to this, we have our calendar administration up at the top here, and then the different types. If we had, say, a PDF, for example, that's going to be our lunch calendar here, and we select that, this is going to open up then that PDF that we linked on there. So here we can see the school menu of all the meals that we'll be serving. And then if we go back into here and we wanted to see how it would look like to add that information, we'd go into the calendar administration. And again, same green button over on the top right or left-hand corner, add calendar type. And then from here, simply calendar is going to be where you can create something within the platform, and we'll see an example of this in a minute. The external link is going to be linking any of those external resources. If you have maybe like a Google Calendar that you wanted to add on there, and then uploading that PDF, that's the example that we just saw with the school lunch calendar on there. For the calendar inside of the platform itself, if you click on the staff meetings, and again, you can also make these private or public. Under staff meetings, here we have September 2025, being able to have the events here with the title on them. And then as individuals are clicking on them, they'll be able to see this is going to be for a board agenda, or not a board agenda. This was for a staff meeting that we had an agenda created for. And this is going to be linked there. So they can see all of the information. They'll be able to access that material. So if this was, for example, like the board meetings for your organization, being able to link that directly on there, assuming you have that published board agenda available. But that way, as they're clicking onto it, they can see that information, makes it very, very seamless to kind of transition between the platforms and make sure they're up to date with all of it. There's going to be that PDF with the lunch calendar. We saw what it looks like within the actual Assembly plot or the Gamut platform with the staff meetings. And then last but not least, we're going to be going over the notifications administration. So for this one, as I mentioned at the very beginning, this is going to be how you can have a list of subscribers for the different modules that you're subscribed to, but then also receiving notifications whenever an agenda is published, whenever the minutes are published, if you have the Gamut Meetings module. For those of you that have policies, this would be when you can receive an email whenever a policy or a document is adopted, when things have been made available for public review. And then if we have news, this is going to be those same news types that we saw in the drop-down menu, being able to subscribe to those anytime a new article is published as well. So again, super handy. These will send those email notifications out automatically, so you don't have to go in and kind of manually do that for them. But for example, if you wanted to see who's exactly subscribed to receive notifications for your board agendas, you can click on the subscriber list there, and you'll be able to see their first name, last name, email address, and when they subscribed here. From the public's perspective, this is what that would look like if we were to go, say, over into a meetings module. Currently, we have just the agenda notifications for our board agendas here. So if we go over into our meetings listing page and we click on this meeting type of a board agenda, we'll see over here on the right-hand corner at the top, this little email or like the little mail icon. This is how we can go in and subscribe to notifications. Now, being that I am logged in on the platform itself, this is going to be able to manage the subscriptions for my email specifically. So if I had anything that I wanted to turn on for the board agendas, for policies, for news, etc., I can manage those on my end. So of course, your members of the members of your organization, assuming they have the user login, they'd be able to manage their own there. If I came in from an external site, this would just instead give them an ability to put in their first name, their last name, and then their email address and subscribe from there. And then you would see that reflected in the notifications administration. So say I turn this on so I can receive those agenda notifications. I'll click Save and Close. And then if we go back into communications, back into that notifications administration section, we can see here now we have that one subscriber. And if I click on it, it's going to be my first and last name, my work email address, when I subscribed, and then of course, whether or not I'm a user. This just means that I have a GAMUT account. If as the main administrator, if they wanted to remove anybody that's on there that maybe just doesn't seem like they need to be there, or maybe it's just kind of some emails that, again, shouldn't be there, you do, as a main administrator, also have the ability to remove them from your subscription list. So you would just uncheck them from there, save and close, and that's going to remove that subscriber for you as well. So it'll have the history of them there, but aside from that, they won't receive those email notifications anymore. And then that does just about cover the communications module. After this, we are going to hop over into documents, but I did want to take a quick break and see if anybody has any questions about kind of the specifics of any of it, or if there's any comments we want to go over.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Hi, Miguel.
Hi, good afternoon, or is it still morning? Yeah, good morning still. So I appreciate you guys' time. I appreciate you guys being here and presenting. I'm coming from Alonso Elementary School District, and I'm currently serving as board president. We just approved all of the GAMUT software, policies, documents, communications, all of that. What we don't have is the communications tab. So my first question would be, and then we also don't have the breakdown of the documents. Like we only have perhaps, excuse me, the meeting agenda. Like you got the way
Yeah.
that this one's fractured is very detailed broken down. Why is it? Why is that? And how much autonomy does the board have, or is that really just the administration that has access to it?
Yeah, absolutely. So those are really great questions. To kind of break down each of the individual modules, this is just so you can, of course, purchase what you need and then just leave what you don't. If your district does have, or if your organization does have communications, as the board members, you do have limited permissions just because there's certain things that you just will and will not be able to do within the site. The main people that will have access to everything is going to be your main meetings administrator. So typically in like a district, for example, that would be like the executive assistant to the superintendent. They will be able to see like the news administration, assuming their permissions are set for that. They'll have access to the notifications administration, everything within meetings to create agendas, policies, documents, etc. But as the board member, or as a board president, unless your permissions have been enabled under like the more drop down for the user admin section, you won't be able to access like the news administration, but you can still access any public content that's here. Or if there was, we're actually going to see an example of this in a minute for the documents module. There's a district that I spoke with probably about a month ago. They said within documents, they like to hand over like essentially these packets of all of the materials that they were providing to them that aren't meant to be publicly available. It's, strictly for the board members to view. They just edited their permission so the board members have access to that, but then nobody else can see that. So essentially, unless your main administrator has given you permissions to view that material, you just unfortunately wouldn't be able to. But that also is just because Gamut as a platform is designed for a variety of meeting types, for communications that are going to be sent out, documents, etc. That would be kind of explaining like why you maybe can see some stuff, but don't really have access to like every single thing on there.
Awesome. That explains a lot. I do have a Gamut account and everything, so I have the
Yeah.
access in terms of, seeing the draft of the agenda before it's posted publicly. But what I'm hearing is that the administrator, maybe the executive assistant, is the one who would give me access to look at the administration notifications, because I don't even see that when I log in with Gamut. So it sounds like I would have to perhaps request that she makes accessibility for myself and perhaps even for the board to be able to,
Hmm.
because we're paying for it, but we're not taking advantage of all that you guys I'm seeing as a board
Yeah.
right now. So um
Yeah.
the other question I had really quickly was, I'm starting to obviously kind of, this was helpful, see kind of the benefit as to why we would use this. My first question would be, what's the difference between this and texting, our superintendent, the board, emailing, right?
Yeah.
Calling, what would be the difference from that? And have other districts, the way that they've implemented this, how do they do it? How is it helpful to them?
Yeah. So to address like the texting and the calling specifically, with calling, of course, it's just kind of a conversation between you and maybe a handful of other people if you're on like a conference call. The information isn't always easy to document, and it's really easy for things to kind of get skewed or forgotten. So having something that's very written and you have like a very concise format of like, here's this information that I'm trying to share with you, does make it super handy. So you always have that to reference back to, both for like your own security, but then also for that of others. In terms of texting, typically that would happen on like a personal device. And so there are kind of some concerns with like, should you be using a personal device for that? Like, what's going to be sent out there? And we've had some really, really large districts specifically mention, like, hey, we have like hundreds of staff members. It's really hard to keep track of all of those things. And if they're texting on their personal devices, like, we don't have control over that. Again, not as in like a bad way or anything, but just making sure that everybody is doing things as they should. So just having like a really nice, concise area where again, you can monitor the information, you can make sure that it's being shared with the appropriate parties. As we saw within the communications module, some of this can be private, some of it can be public, so not like the wrong information isn't leaking to the wrong people there. So that makes it super handy. And then for examples of districts using this, I am not able to give like specific names, but I will say that for like news articles, for example, if they have just kind of like some shout outs, maybe some highlights that they want to give for students or staff members, they're able to link that onto their site. I actually attended a board meeting. This was probably like 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, and they were doing this really fun celebration for these students that were just had some outstanding achievements. They were very, very impressive, and they're in like middle school. So it was really, really fun to see them. They had the parents gathering there, and they were able to link some of that information over in like the news articles so they could say, like, hey, here's this really great stuff here. Um, just make sure that people can have access to that information so they can go in and also help to celebrate and support other members of their community. Even if they're like they don't have a student at the school, it just again provides a sense of unity for everyone to make sure you're all on the same page with all of it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's helpful. It's a way for a platform for not just the board members, but also the community. And based on what was shown, they could also, subscribe to
Yeah.
notifications. And they don't have that right now. So that's why I'm glad I'm here, because I'm learning it. The other part is getting that information to the community. Like, hey, you have access to this. You have access to getting notifications, uh, to whatever updates you like. So I think that's why I'm here. I'm learning. So I appreciate your time and I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We appreciate your questions. They're absolutely incredible. And we're going to go over actually into the documents module, but definitely keep the questions coming. They're very, very valuable. And it's really nice because it also kind of gives other members on the call a chance to kind of brainstorm a little bit and see like, hey, what does it look like? What are some things that we want to kind of take into consideration as well? So thank you very much. Going back over into the documents module then. So if you're again just coming in straight from like the home page here, we would see we have our documents tab at the top. And as I mentioned when we were going over the slides, you could essentially think of this as the file explorer on your computer. So this is where you can house again a variety of any file types. If you have any content that you want to share on here, as I referenced when I was answering one of Miguel's questions, you can make some stuff private and also public. So the right people are getting the information, the wrong people aren't. But as we can see here, we have a couple examples of some different folders that you're able to have in here for maybe like a high school specifically, having some grants or scholarships on there that you're able to do. There's some HR forms maybe, so you can have your staff members go in and update their tax information or make sure that all their paperwork is correct. Some newsletter documents if you wanted, student enrollment forms, really handy for documents, being able to link. So for charter organizations specifically, of course, they do like a lottery system, right? So you'd be able to maybe link that over in the resources page. But in the student forms for the documents module, if you have maybe, updated enrollment forms or school lunch forms or things that you need students and parents to have access to, but you don't want to print a million copies and kill like 37,000 trees, you'd be able to link that right onto your site here, attach the PDF, they can fill out the information and then submit it to the school. You can also, if you have any translated board agendas, again, making sure that you have a certified individual go in and ensure that the information is translated accurately. You could have a folder designated for all of those resources for those that speak another language. Same with the translated policies. And then of course, some transportation documents. So if you want to, tell everybody when the bus schedules are supposed to be, or, who the new bus driver of the year is, being able to link that information here. If we go over the toolbar at the top, we can see here, this is going to be to go back and forth of the forms, but since we're on like the first homepage here, we don't have access to this currently. If we wanted to add a URL, this is where I referenced. If we have maybe a Google document, for example, and you wanted to add it in here without having to download as a PDF and then upload a different file type, adding URL, you'd be able to add the title and then just link that information immediately on there. That'll go ahead and save it just like this one does. So when people are clicking on it, this is just going to be a link for some Latin text here, but they'd be able to access that content there. So if we have over here, we can go ahead and create new folders. For this one, create as many folders as you'd like. As we mentioned, there aren't any restrictions for file size or type. The only limitation is, again, that you're not able to upload more than 400 files in a single day. But again, 400 is quite a lot. You just have to wait until the next until like that 24 hours has passed, and you'll be good to go from there. Over here, we also do have to upload to individual files. So if we were to select maybe the grants folder, for example, and we wanted to go ahead and upload a file, you can either drag and drop here, or if you select the upload files option, this would be to go ahead and open up the file explorer on your device, and that can go ahead and pull from there as well. So we'll exit out of that, and then I'll use a little back arrow to go back to our home page here. This one is going to also be for some folders if you wanted to download some content, get some information on this. This is going to give you information for the folder itself. So it'll tell you really fun things like, where's the path? So where does this folder live? If you were maybe 7, 8 folders deep and you wanted to see how it is that you got there, having the path, when this folder was created, if it was modified, the permissions that are set on here, being able to see who created that folder there. You can, of course, copy some information over. You can cut it and then paste it, delete folders or files if needed. And then there's also going to be this option to duplicate folders. So if there's something that maybe you want to have 2 of, but there's going to be some very slight differences there, just duplicate the information over and you'll be good to go. This is how you would rename them. This is going to be for the list view if I wanted to change the format of which I'm seeing the documents module. And then this is going to be if I wanted to sort it differently. So say for this one, we currently have it in sorted by name. If we wanted to maybe sort this by like size, we could do that, modified by. If we wanted to sort it by the date, we could do that as well. And then also if we wanted to have the folders first and then any extra links or like images after, we would be able to list it that way as well. So I'll just go back to that grid format. As I mentioned, and just as there is with nearly everything in our GAMUT platform, you can customize the permissions for this. So say we have, this HR forms folder. This is, of course, going to have some different content versus like transportation documents. So if I right click on here, we can either open the folder, upload some file types, copy, cut, duplicate. But if we scroll down to the very bottom here, we can see this option to set a permission now. So if I click set permission, this is going to open the option of anybody that you have as a user on the account. You can set exactly how much access you want them to have to this content. So say for a group permission set, and we can go ahead and see also how to do that in the user administration in a minute. But for group permission sets, anybody that in the user admin has the title of admin would be an owner of the folder. If they have a title maybe of read, you could set them as a visitor. If they had the title of contribute, you could set them as a member. But this piece is going to be fully customizable, and this is going to be based, again, on the groups that we're going to see in a minute in the user admin section. HR forms, we're going to say that this is some more sensitive material. We do want to keep this private, so it's only restricted to our authorized users. we're going to keep this box here unchecked because if we checked it, that would mark it public, meaning this can be viewed by anyone. So this makes it publicly available. This would just make it private. And again, if you wanted to do it for individual users, you could say for this admin, for those with the PC, if you hold down Control, you can select multiple at once. So if I wanted James, Bob, Thomas, and Taylor to have administrative powers or administrative permissions, I'd be able to select that there, save it, and that would go ahead and change that for them. Again, this is going to be private, so we're just going to click cancel because I don't want to really change any of the permissions there. But then we have the transportation documents. This is going to have those bus schedules that we want students to have access to. So if we look like what it looks like from their perspective, we do have the box checked here. This is going to say that it's public, so it can be viewed by anyone. But the permissions, again, are only going to be authorized to those that have an account within your GAMUT platform. So like little Sally's mom can't come in here and start adding stuff like that. She doesn't have permissions for that. She needs an account through your site. But she can at least still access the material here. So all of that's going to be good to go. And then for those group permissions, we're just going to hop over into more under the user administration section. And if we look at the permission set for, let's pick myself, this is what it's going to refer to for the documents module with the documents permissions. We can see here it's going to be for visitor, member, or owner, and that'll dictate how they can access that information in each of the content or in the folders there. So going back to documents, we're going to see what this looks like in a public's perspective. So I'm going to log out in just a moment. But really quick before we do, we're also going to look at the set alert option. So what's really handy about this is you can get incredibly granular with all of it. So if I wanted to know for setting some alerts here, if I wanted to receive an email notification anytime any changes are made, only when new things are added, if existing items are modified, or if items are deleted, I'd be able to say if I want the email sent immediately, maybe just a daily summary so I'm not bombarded, or a weekly summary as well. But it gets really granular in the sense that you can also receive an email whenever anything changes. If someone else changes a document, if someone else changes a document created specifically by you, or if they change a document that was last modified by you. So the site will, of course, be able to track like who's changing what. And this way you'll receive alerts anytime any of those changes do happen. So if something shouldn't be moving, or maybe it should, and you just kind of want to make sure you're updated with all of that, you're able to go ahead and set these permissions here. And then, of course, customizing the alert title if you wanted to. So it does default automatically to whatever the title of the folder is, just to keep it very consistent and organized. But if you wanted to set this to anything else, just highlight the text. You can delete and modify as needed. So I'm going to say I want to have an email sent immediately. So I'm going to save that information there. And then we're going to look at what it looks like to upload a file type. And that'll also give me the email so I can see exactly what that looks like. And we'll be able to pull up an example for you guys. So for the file type, I'm going to go ahead and click this upload files option here. So if we click that, we have now this drag and drop feature. What I'll do is I'm just going to go ahead and add a quick attachment of our CSPA logo, and I'm going to drag and drop this over. Okay, so it's going to copy the information over. So we're going to drag and drop, and now that's going to upload that file for the document here. So we'll take a little bit to load. Sometimes depending on the file type, that's kind of the only thing that we'll have to keep an eye on. But aside from that, everything else should be pretty good to go. If we were to delete any of that content, we can also see over here on the left-hand side, we do also have a recycle bin. That is going to show you any of the things that you have deleted within the last 30 days. So being able to click on that and see if there's any content in here. So even if on accident, maybe if you did delete something and you didn't mean to, or maybe you did, but a week later, you're like, oh no, I actually needed that. You do have 30 days left to cover that material, so you'll be good to go. We're going to go back into the transportation documents, and we do now have that CSBA logo in there. From here, being that we did set the alert on there, we are going to receive that email notification in a moment. And that's just going to let us know like, hey, there was this stuff that was changed. Here's what that would look like. But that's going to be that section there. Some of the other features, now that we're kind of following around in the actual folders themselves, are going to be available. We do have this option to go to a parent folder. So this is just going to take us back to whatever like the main folder is for that. And there is also going to be this option for root. And this is just going to take us to the main homepage as a whole. So it does make it pretty handy as you're jumping around. And of course, being able to utilize these arrows to go back and forth and see where was I previously. You can kind of track some changes there. But so far then, that does also kind of cover a good chunk then of the documents module and being able to upload some different file types. We are going to go in and actually delete that information there. So we're going to remove it. And that way we can go ahead and see what that's also going to look like in the recycle bin. But for then documents specifically, are there any questions or anything that we're able to address or answer in the meantime? No worries. Well, thank you very, very much. We can see here then, just to kind of wrap things up a little bit, we have this recycle bin here. That's going to be the CSBA logo. And again, we will have 30 days to review that material. In that case, we're going to go ahead and log out here. And as I mentioned, we did have some of those folders set to private. So as a member of the public, no longer logged in, this is just going to be what it looks like from a public's perspective. If I'm going on to communications, I don't have the administration section up at the top there. I also don't have access to the notifications administration at the bottom, but I can still see all of the information here. So for those monthly newsletters, I'd be able to access the information that we had set in there. Also subscribing to those notifications if I wanted to. And what that looks like from a public's perspective is again, inputting their name, first name, last name, and email address, canceling out of that. And then within the documents module that we're going to select on the top right-hand corner, this is where we can go in and we don't see the HR forms anymore because again, that one was not checked to be publicly available. So this is all going to be the content that we see, just the grants, some newsletters, student forms, etc. Any links that we have on here, again, those are public because we didn't edit those permissions, so we can still access that information there. But it does make it, again, very, very handy just to kind of share that information with those in your community, with maybe members of your organization, making sure everyone's still in the same loop with everything. And then let me pull up the slides really quick, because as always, we do have plenty of different resources for you all. If you do have any questions, definitely feel free to drop them in the chat, or we also have our GAMUT team always available for assistance. So whether it's giving us a call or sending us an email, we're always more than happy to go ahead and assist you guys with everything. As a reminder, for any ongoing GAMUT subscriptions that you guys already have, definitely feel free to give us a call or let us know if you ever need any like refresher trainings or anything else, any kind of support there. And of course, if you would like to inquire about any of the new modules, maybe you don't see them, or maybe your organization just hasn't subscribed to them yet, feel free to send me an email at sestrada@csba.org. And we'll be able to schedule maybe like a more personalized demonstration for you, but then also be able to get you set up so you can get a quote and get that information sent over and get you started. So as always, thank you very much, and we will send out this recording soon.